you have it started on Facebook?
Yeah, we have to click. We have to start on Facebook though. So go to. It's already pulled up. Nope, it's already pulled up down there. The taskbar.
I knew that.
Go live.
There we go.
There we are. Okay. I think we're all good again. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Close Up with Jesus. Your two hosts, Ryan and Kelton.
Yep.
Today, we're going to be talking about the first Genesis in the beginning. ... What happened?
What happened?
So really, last week we kind of joked about it, but we really wanted to do it and do a whole topic on Genesis 1:1.
Because this is what kind of
It's
started us to get
insane.
into this. What did we have? Like a 3-hour conversation with that guy?
Yeah, we didn't get through the whole chapter. We went through the first. I think it was the first.
6 verses.
No, not even. No, it was. I think it was the 10 because we went to day
Maybe.
4. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's going to be really cool. It's going to be awesome. We're going to go through the entire chapter verse by verse. I'm also going to steal a little bit from Brother Ray's sermon, just a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It lined up perfectly, too.
I didn't, like, I'm pretty sure he watches every
But I mean, I don't
week,
think he did it like that on purpose.
I don't think he did it on purpose, and it just works out really well.
Yeah. And I'll try to bring as much, like, of the science knowledge that I have into
Yeah.
it. So we have the science perspective and the godly perspective. I think science and God go hand in hand. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
you look at, like, how we're made and stuff. We're so biologically complex. It's insane that we're existing.
Like, our brains...
without a creator.
Our brains are the best computer in the entire universe.
Yeah.
Our brains... It's insane.
Yeah.
It just astounds me every time. So we're going to go ahead and start on Genesis 1. Also, I broke my thumb.
No.
So if that's what you see.
I broke his thumb. I broke him.
He-
I broke him.
we like to spar and spar with
Swords.
and it
Fake
just hit
swords.
my thumb and it
Fake
broke.
swords.
Fake swords. Fake
Fake
swords. Not real
swords.
swords. YouTube, don't do the demonetized thing. I don't think we can.
He's fine,
demonetize.
YouTube. He's fine.
Yeah. Anyways, in Genesis 1:1, the very first line says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." This is the King James version.
You know, I always thought it's so weird. I swear, it used to say heavens and the earth.
Well, it's 'cause
I
it
always,
says heavens.
yeah, I always read it as that.
And the different translations put heavens.
Yeah.
So this, I think Brother A said it Sunday. So if you didn't see that, go watch it. It's on both Facebook and
Do
YouTube.
we still have his PowerPoint? We could.
We do have it pulled up.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. He pointed out that is the universe, which is the heaven, and earth is, well, earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's still an insane thing to think about, that God created everything, and he also created the earth. And if we move on to verse 2, we see that it says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." Now, there was one dude, it's not the same dude that we talked to, Kelton. It's a different dude. He was like, well, because his translation, this is why translation's important. Because his Bible put the, before the God created the heaven and the earth, the waters were already there.
What?
Yeah. That's
Why would
why
you
I was like,
why would you switch the order of the verses?
I don't know, but that's the problem. That's why you gotta be careful about your translation, because your translation.
That's not even translating. That's just manipulating the text.
It's changing the word of God, and that's a very bad thing to do. And there is special punishment set aside for when you do that.
I mean, the Bible even tells you not to. And what is it? Matthew 5:18, right? I think. Here, I'll put it.
I think so. You'll find it.
I'll figure it out.
There's another verse that says, "Your name will be taken out of the book of life." I'm like 85% sure about that. It's not 100 because I can't remember the address. And if I can't remember the address, I don't want to say it is. Because if I can remember the address, then I can go to it. But, yeah, his verse,
Yeah.
his book said, the waters, he looked at the waters first, and then he created. And that's backwards, obviously, because God created everything. Then why is there already water before he created stuff? But in this one, we see that he created the water. So we know that in the beginning, God created the heavens, which is the universe, and earth, and he created water. The earth is just water right now. There is no atmosphere. And then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So at this point, we know there is no light in the universe. And then in verse 4, and then he said, "Let there be light," and then there's light. In verse 4, we say, and we see, God said, God, goodness gracious in heaven, and God saw the light, and it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Here we go.
Because you kept on stuttering over your words. I was like, where are we? Where did we go? You like jumped
we were
around.
We were on verse 4 and went through verse 5 if you want to read that again. Sorry, sometimes I stutter. It just happens.
I do the same thing.
But right here we see God created the day and the night. There is no sun or moon at this point. And it's really weird. We're going to get into it a little bit more later when he creates the sun and moon. But right now, there is no sun or moon, so remember that. Thank you, Caden. For those of y'all who don't know, sometimes we have people in the audience who come and listen, and we talk to them afterwards, and they just turn on the TV so they can see the text, too.
Yeah.
They should be having their Bibles.
I left mine at home. There's plenty here. This is a church. I'm sure you will find like 20 within the span of 5 minutes.
Okay. And then we'll move on to verse 6. And it says, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." So this is him separating the atmosphere as we know it from the sea, creating that space in between. I always find it really interesting. Almost every mythology, this isn't just like Christianity specific, every mythology has the space in between the atmosphere and the water, or the ground, rather. In some, like in Greek mythology, they have Atlas, who's constantly holding up the sky. He's got the weight of the shoulders on his hand.
And then he's on a turtle or something like that. And it's like it's constantly standing on something, but they never know what that's actually standing on.
That's I think it's Hindu?
Yeah.
And then Egyptians have something similar to Atlas, I think. It's been a while since I looked at Egyptian, but Roman mythology just takes from Greek and just does Atlas again. But I think it's really interesting that in a lot of mythologies there is this, like, something is separating this. And in this we have, it's God. God is the one who's separated. He's not holding it on his shoulders, though. He's just kind of like, there we go.
It's there.
It's done.
It's there.
He says it and it's done, which I think is just a testament to his power. He's not even doing anything. He's just saying it and it's happening.
And another thing important for later, whenever we dive deeper into it, which is something that made me like connect something to this with science, kind of ish, is like Moses wrote Genesis. So that's something to keep in mind for later. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God's right there going, this is what happened.
Yep.
Here you go. Now write it down so you don't forget it, because you're a little human.
Yeah.
I think about that often.
Immortal.
We're humans, but we have such short memories. Like, some of us can remember things from a while ago, but like within a couple generations, we could like forget how to fish. If everyone just stopped fishing right now, and a couple generations went by. Well, we have the internet now, but if a couple generations went by before the internet, it'd be lost.
Even then, they probably wouldn't even. Even then, they would probably lose like fishing rods and stuff, and then they wouldn't know how to do that.
It's just fishing is just the example. I'm not saying we're gonna forget how to fish in 2 generations.
Right.
It's just an example that, like, as humans, our memories are just really short, and even like the same generation, we'll just forget what someone did.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
It's very common in like speaking languages. If you're using the language for years and then all of a sudden you stop for just a year, you forgot almost majority of the language.
Let's see. We're in verse 7. No,
6.
we just did 6.
Oh.
I think. Yeah, divide the waters from the waters. 7. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, atmosphere, sea, and it was so. So immediately it happened. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So we see at the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, but that was little h. Scroll back up. You can see little h, and down there, big H. So it's 2 separate things. Because we know when something's capitalized, what does that mean, Kelton?
It has a name. It's more.
It's a place.
Yeah.
It's got a name. It is something. So that's the atmosphere. I told you to scroll, now I've lost my place. There it is. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So we've gone 2 days now. It's taken God 2 days so far to create the entire universe and the earth. Pretty good for a first day. And then he created the atmosphere and the waters. And then that was the second day. I mean, these are actual days because it's something that comes up later. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. So now God has pushed the waters out, brought up some land, and now there's dry land. So we got water, we got land. Awesome. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the third day. Keep in mind, the sun and moon don't exist yet.
Yeah, which I think is still crazy.
We forget, like, as humans, because we've always lived with the sun and moon.
Right.
And it's just crazy to think about. God has created the planets, and there is no sun or moon right now.
And he did
it's
say,
just
right, and he did say, like, there's light.
Yeah.
But what that light is, we don't necessarily know.
We know it's not God.
Right.
That some people make the argument that it's God who's the light, but if we scroll up, we see in verse, I think it's verse 4. Yeah, verse 4. And God saw the light. So we know you don't look at yourself and go.
Unless it's the light emitting off of him.
But he says he created.
Right.
So we know it's not. And God said, let there be light. So he made the light. So we know that it is God. The light isn't God, even though God is the light.
I'm just
Not
here to
this
argue
light.
with you this time.
That's fine. We see that he made the light and he saw the light, and we know it's good. And he also divided the light from the darkness. We know there could be a cycle right now, or it could just be it's bright and now it's dark. We don't know.
Right, and it's weird to think about because, I mean, it does say evening and morning, but without the moon and sun,
Well,
how do you
if there is a cycle, there could still be a cycle. There's just no
Mhm.
governing body.
Right.
Which we know later he makes the sun and moon as the governing bodies.
Right.
I think it's the fourth day he does that.
And we're on
And we're on
14.
Yeah, we're on 14. No, we're not.
Yep.
We're on.
You ended at third
Did I
day.
end? I did it. Okay. Yeah, fourth day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. Whew. Okay. Time to unpack. God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament." But I thought there was already lights. No, these are the sun and moon and the stars.
Mm-hmm.
And he divided them between the day and the night. So we got the sun and the moon. And they are for signs and seasons and for days and years. And notice signs is
Constellations. You can even think about it,
Yeah,
constellations.
I think he mentions it. Yeah, later in verse 16 he says he made the stars, also made the constellations, which is something we're going to talk about. I love Genesis 1:1. Just chapter 1. But you see, signs is separate from seasons and days and years. So God literally goes, there are signs I'm going to give you, and these are going to represent it. So we already see God preparing for the future for the Star of Nazareth,
Right.
for that to already be set into motion at the beginning of the universe. It's insane to think that God's already thinking
Way far
in
ahead.
advance, thousands of years in advance.
Yep.
It boggles my mind because I can't plan 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
And God's
I
already going,
take it,
here we go.
in college, I take it week by week, but once I'm out of college, I take it day by day.
Yeah.
Like,
And then we see in verse 16. I think we're on 15. And then let them be lights in the firmament. Oh, we are on 16. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the sun, and the lesser light to rule the night.
and then he made the
moon.
stars also.
And he made the stars also. That's just a throwaway line. Do you realize that? He says, the two important things are the sun and moon. And he goes, yeah, he made the stars too.
I mean,
It's
like,
a throwaway line.
yeah.
Like, it's not throwaway line, because the Bible, every line in the Bible is important. This is just like, yeah, he also did this.
Just in
It's
case
like
you didn't know, if he could make a giant star called the sun and a little comet called the moon, just in case you didn't know, he made the stars. Okay? Like, no duh.
No, duh. But it's just so cool. It's like if Kelton built a skyscraper. Oh yeah, he also made the Statue of Liberty too. It's like that. It's like saying something like that. It's just, wow. It's a flex. It's just, jeez. And then verse 17 we see, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw the light that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So we notice that only now is God giving there a chronicle for us to know day and night.
Right. For
rather
us to
for-
logically make sense of
for
it.
us to make sense of it. But we know it's still day because we see every passage
Mhm.
beforehand, every like paragraph. When he ends it, he says third day.
Yep.
Some people argue that that is thousands of years.
And I can see that from a scientific perspective because that could be God talking to Moses and putting that into a way
I
humans can easily
can.
comprehend it. But that, especially for that time, but that's just how like I can see it from the scientific perspective.
I can see, but then we know from now on, from this point, at minimum, I believe every day is literally just
Yeah.
24 hours. But at least from verse 14 onwards, every day is a day. It is 24 hours.
And I mean, also God exists out of time though too.
yeah, he says, yeah, God exists out of time. So that's something really cool.
So what can be a day for him, he can turn a single
You know,
day
pull up
into
the-
thousands of years.
Go to Brother Ray's PowerPoint. Go ahead and
Or
go back
no,
to
other
us.
way around. Sorry, he can turn thousands of years into just a day.
Yeah. Go to
This one or this one.
the one above it. Yeah, that one. So there's a Brother Ray did this had this PowerPoint. Well, not that one.
It pulled it up.
Silly PowerPoint.
This one.
He broke down the first verse in Genesis, and I thought this was so cool, and it just it goes really well with our lesson today.
Yeah, it does.
In the beginning
Free slide.
is time. So we know God has to be outside of these forces to make them.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, God creates time. There's time right there. God created the heaven. There's space. That's the universe, everything in it. Or rather, that's the universe. It's a space that everything resides in. And the earth. There's matter. The three things you need, well, they said you need Brother Ray pointed out, they said you need energy and force now, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Brother Ray covered that too.
Except the energy and God part got switched around.
just a little bit, but ignore that. God is energy. So in the beginning, time, God is the energy. Created is the force. And the heaven, or rather, the heaven, there's space, and the earth, matter.
Yep.
Every single basis, like science can't disprove God. Every time science goes,
I
I think
think.
we got him, let's add two more things to there to be creation, God just goes, well,
I mean,
here you go.
even just the complexity of our eye, and the cells it takes to see, like I've said before, takes more. There's more cells in just your eye and the cells that it takes to see than there are like stars in the sky,
Yeah.
according to science.
It's insane how complex we are and how complex life is, and I still see people going, yeah, that happened by random chance.
I mean, how many years was it?
Just
What the people that first sequenced the DNA molecule? I forgot how many years it took, but it was anywhere from 10 to like 30 years to just sequence the entire DNA molecule. Now they can do it within 24 hours because of technology. But before they had to literally like
It was
sequence
slow.
it very slow, and that was just a singular DNA strand.
another important thing to point out in the verses themselves, animals don't exist yet. So the
Yeah.
reason that we know there has to be light beforehand, before verse 14, is because on the third day God created plants.
Yeah.
What do plants need to survive? They need light. Specifically now, the sun. We know the sun doesn't exist yet because the sun exists there. Well, on the first day, what God make?
Plants.
He made light.
With
So
and
that covers
also
that basis.
with if I'm wrong on the science thing, I could just be remembering it backwards. But scientifically, the plants did actually come first,
Yeah.
but based off of what they found in fossils and all
There's
sorts of stuff like
the-
that.
There's the two, I can't remember what they're called, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
pioneers. And the first thing in any ecosystem to form
Plants.
is lichen and moss, plants. And then you get bigger plants and so on and so forth. And you'll have some critters, and then you get more plants, bigger plants. But the first thing to always come is plants. So plants
Yep.
have to exist before animals. And God went, all
Otherwise,
right.
it's not a suitable environment for
Yeah.
those creatures.
So God went, okay, I'm going to set this up before you even know that. Here you go.
He's just like,
Plants came before animals. But plants came before the sun because
God's like, it's gonna take the scientists like thousands of years to figure this out. I figured it out in 2 days.
2 days, guys.
Like-
Come on. Work with me here. And we go down to verse 20 now. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So he created birds that are going to fly around in the atmosphere. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, of which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind, And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and the morning were the fifth day.
So sorry, this is another thing from my biology class, is every single species, right, has the ability to overpopulate. They have the opportunity to overpopulate the earth individually as a species. So ants, they could become the most populated species and take over. Humans can do the same thing, right? But God has put in certain things to keep that in balance and keep it in check so it's not.
See, death doesn't exist
Right.
as of this moment. Death hasn't entered the equation in the universe. It's not even a concept.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is, actually. It's a concept. It's not a reality. So they didn't have to worry about overpopulation. That's something we'll get into a wee bit later.
Right, but he did bring that up with the be fruitful and multiply, because I mean every single species has the what's the
Innate
word?
characteristic of wanting to multiply.
Yeah,
They want to spread
they
themselves.
they want to become the most populated species. Not like in a way like we're gonna kill all of the whales, but like, you know,
Goodness. Sorry if I hear that. That was my brace. I was tightening it back up.
does that brace help it, by the way?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It keeps me from wanting to bend it with my ADHD brain cells.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, insects don't exist. He hasn't made insects. Caden just yelled, "What?" That's right. Insects don't exist right now, because look back. Gunner, we are in a lesson. Come on, man. We see that he creates fish, and he creates birds. He does not say insects, because insects come later.
Mm-hmm.
So in the fifth day, God's creating the animals right now. He's created the fish and the birds. So we know that since they can't eat, what are they going to eat?
Plants.
Exactly. There are no meat eaters right now. Everything eats plants, which is something really weird to think about.
Herbivores.
They're all herbivores. Because there's no death.
Except for whales. Whales, they can eat
I
plants.
mean, they could still,
but I
they're
mean,
probably still eating plants. At this
Yeah.
point in time, they're eating plants.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no death, so they're not going to kill anything. Because there's no need to. There's no sin, so there's no need to commit murder on each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's just weird to think about. And then we go to verse 24. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing." So there's cattle. So that's sheep, cow, horses, pigs, etc. Creeping thing, bugs.
Critters.
Critters, yeah. And beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. So in case you don't think that covers everything with cattle creeping thing, God added beast into the mix, so that's literally everything on the planet. Good luck with that.
I'm a beast.
Nah.
Nah.
Yes, you are. I'm kidding. No, Kelton's a beast when he comes to lifting stuff. He's a strong man.
Do the roar. No, sorry.
And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. So also that's important to see. Every single thing God is making, He is saying it's good.
Mm-hmm.
That means the snake that tempts Eve later in the Garden of Eden, when He made it, He went, "That is good." You think about that? Because for the snake to exist, God had to have made it.
Yep.
And God goes, "It's good." And He knows what's going to happen, and He goes, "It's good." You ever think about that? It's just...
It's a weird loop.
It just...
I mean, like, if you think about it, even death in its own, like, yes, to us, death is awful. But if you think about it, like, an animal dying, oh my gosh, that's so bad. No, it dies, and then it becomes nourishment to the plants around it.
And dying is our portal, for
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better word, our gateway, that's a better word, gateway to heaven. Without death, we could never go to heaven.
Right.
And it's just something weird to think about. Verse 26, and God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God has now made man in his image. He hasn't said that yet.
Nope. Everything else was made good,
It was
but we
good.
were made in His image.
We are special. And that feels weird to say. We're special. No. You're special because God made you in His image. You're not ugly. You're made in God's image.
Yep.
He made you
I
because he
mean,
loves you.
If
It's
you
so
look at
good.
every single person and the characteristics that we share, yes, we're going to share characteristics. But if you think about it, if we're made in His image, that means that every single person has a little bit of piece of God.
Mhm. We all look a little bit like God, and that's so cool to think about.
Mm-hmm.
That we're all made in His image.
Every single blemish, whatever you want to call it, but we're all a little piece of God.
And we see in verse 27. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. So, right there. God created him in His own image. Semicolon. So you could end the sentence there. But it continues, and this next part's important. And we're going to get backlash for this. This is what the Bible says. If you don't like it, go outside and yell at God and say, God, why did you put that there? Because He did this.
Reproduction. Sorry.
Male and female created He them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read it again. Male and female He created them. Created He them. There are only two genders. This is off topic a little bit, but there are only two.
Mm-hmm.
They're right there. If you don't like it, go read verse
There's multiple other
1,
verses too.
Genesis
but
1,
that's not what we're talking about.
verse
today,
27. Go read that, and
Yeah.
then you can come argue with us.
Or go read, or try to
Um,
read some other stuff too, because
yeah.
there's other verses in the
There
Bible
are other
that.
verses, but they
depict
all
out-
go back to reinforcing this idea.
Yep.
Only two. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. I know we're going over time just a little bit, but it's really good. It's really important.
Yeah,
We're probably gonna
we'll
push
try to
it.
make this at least at most an hour.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go over. I think we'll push it towards 45, 7:45.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're gonna go to. Well, we could go to an hour, but
We talked about this for 3 hours, Ryan. Over
Yeah,
3
I
hours
know, I
at
know.
camp, but we also didn't really
But
have anything
people's-
else to do.
people's time is important. You know it's important.
okay.
Not them, the people online.
Oh, well, they can watch us anytime.
They write it on. They write with us. So, that's not what I said.
Okay, let's get back to this.
Okay, verse
28, I think. No, 29.
Yeah, 29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon
I
which
was
is,
going to
my eyes, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Right there. He's not giving them meat. He's saying every herb that bearing seed and which is upon the face of the earth. So all of the vegetables and every tree in which there is fruit of a tree yielding seed, apples, oranges, bananas, etc. You can eat that. That's going to be nourishment for you.
So
don't need
in the
meat.
same way you get protein from meat, you can get protein or
Mhm.
whatever you need from these resources that He's given you.
And to every beast of... We'll answer your questions after, buddy, I promise. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. That's the verse right there. Verse 30, right there, that refers back to when I was talking about before, when there were no worms or anything for them to eat. They were eating fruits and vegetables. Verse 30 supports that. They're saying, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. Every single animal has something to eat.
Yep.
And God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good, and the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So we've gone through the 6 days of creation. At the very end, God's looking over everything He's made, and He's going, this is very good. Every other time, you notice He says it's good. He's created man now, though, and He's looking, and He's finished, and He goes, it's very good. That's how much of an impact man made. It made God put very in front of good. That sounds small, but remember, God just created the universe and everything in it and everything else besides man, and He goes, this is good.
And if you think about it,
He makes man, he
a
goes,
reason He
"Very
made it be something like very good is because, one, humans are very complex, as are other creatures, but we're able to actually have relations with God.
Yeah, we were made to do that.
Yeah.
That's our purpose, or that was our original purpose,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word, is to commune and be with God and to talk. During this time, God came down to earth. He came to the Garden of Eden, and He talked with Adam and Eve, and He'd walk with them, and they would talk. We see that supported later in Genesis.
Hello, Adam. This is God.
But it's just so cool that that's what we could do. We could talk with God.
Yep.
It wasn't us praying. It was what we did. They did pray. Pretty sure they probably prayed. But they were able to like how me and you were talking.
Right.
They could do that. And
Like,
that's
I
just
mean,
so-
even later, which we're probably not going to go over to that section of Genesis, but even later, whenever Satan tempts them, God is walking through the garden.
yeah, he's on Earth. He's walking, going, Adam and Eve, where are you? Because that shows how how personal their relationship is. He's literally he's walking and he's looking at all their spots and he's going, where are y'all?
Even though he knows exactly where they are.
He knows exactly
but-
where they are. It was to get them to reveal themselves voluntarily.
Yeah.
Because going a little bit more off of the chapter and more into just creation in general,
Mhm.
when God made us, you can go and put it back to scene one. When God made us, He didn't make us to be mindless automatons. We're not meant to go beep bop. I love you, God. Yes, God. Beep bop boop. Yes, sir. It's yes, God, yes. No, He didn't do that. He gave us free will. He gave us the ability to choose to love Him and choose to walk with Him.
Mhm.
And that's where later we see, well, why didn't God just remove the tree of good and evil and just make it to where Adam and Eve couldn't have chosen that? He did that so there's a choice. Because for there to be a choice, the opposite choice has to exist. For us to follow God voluntarily, it's not voluntary if we don't have another option of not following Him.
Mhm.
That was the option, not follow Him. And that's why He gave them the one rule, being like, hey, don't do this. That was the choice of follow the rule, don't follow the rule. And they ultimately didn't follow the rule because they listened to the serpent, which was the devil, and were convinced themselves in their heart, Eve first, convinced themselves in their heart to eat of the tree. And we
Right.
know another important thing, Brother Ray points this out a lot. Adam's with Eve
Yeah,
when Eve
right
eats
there.
of the tree. He's right there. He sees the serpent talking all this nonsense, and he's going, it's fine.
And what's crazy is
He's fine. He's
the
doing
snakes were actually like they had legs.
Yeah, they had legs. 'Cause
Used to.
he curses them to crawl on his belly.
Mhm.
There was an ad I saw one time, and I know this is weird, but it was a Jewish philosopher, and he says, why does God curse the snake to crawl on its belly if that's what it already does?
Right.
And then later he said something that tried to discredit the fact because he was against God and he was trying to it was the whole thing. But that really stuck with me is like, oh, I never really thought
Yeah,
about it.
but I always
Because we always when we think of snake, we always think of crawling on belly.
Yeah.
But they had a different image originally.
the reason why I always remember that though is because of that track where Satan there's a giant snake and it has two
Overhead?
legs.
Yeah, there's a track that we might have it somewhere.
Somewhere.
If we
It's
have
an
it, we'll-
old
if
track.
We, if we have it in there, we'll show you guys next week because we're probably going to do chapter 2 and the fall of man. Because if y'all don't post questions, well, we can't answer them, so we're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
But he had like a cobra head, 2 arms and legs, and he was standing.
And they were all scaly.
It was scary. It was.
It's a little like comic looking thing.
Yeah. It was comic. It was drawn.
Well, yeah.
Ultimately, though, if we look at chapter 1, we are told explicitly how everything's created. And even though we are told explicitly how everything's created, and we can sit on this and we can read line for line, analyze word by word, we are never going to really understand
Right.
how it's created because we're not God. Sorry to burst your bubble, everybody. We're not God. We're not going to understand how. We can only stand why and try to guess as to why God made it and the order of events, which is really what it was. It was not so much like how, but so much of order of events.
Order,
like,
yeah.
what
This tells you more so the
happens-
order of like how he did it.
Like the question said, in the beginning, what happened? This is the order of events. What happened? How everything even works.
And like even science like will support plants came first.
Plants came
You know,
first.
Because without plants, then the atmosphere could not be made.
Mhm.
Like a correct atmosphere for suitable for life. If you think about it, we have this soundboard. I said this last week, I believe.
Mhm.
Everything scientists will agree with this. Every single substance on Earth, pretty much, is so that's needs to be there for life. Is so finely tuned that to where if any of it is out of sync just a little bit, like if any of these soundboard pieces were out of sync a little bit, the sound will not sound right. If anything that you need for life is off just a little bit, then you will not be here.
Mm-hmm. There's there were a couple articles that circulated a couple years ago, and I think they're still accurate. If the Earth were to move slightly slower, we'd be in a perpetual ice age. We would never thaw. If it was a little bit faster, we'd be like our sister planet Venus, and we'd be too hot all the time.
Yep.
We are moving at the perfect rotational speed.
We're at the perfect distance. We're at the perfect speed. We have the perfect climate, and
all the keys for life are so fine and so perfect that there has to be a creator behind them. Also, I think we're going to end with this. Last time I said this, I'm going to say it again so we have on two of the episodes. I did the math in biology class one time to see how long it would take to form one protein.
you should try to
for a
recalculate that if you can.
I need to. I
Yeah.
need to. I need to find the video. There was a video I watched first that inspired me to do it, and he did his own math on it. It will take longer than the Earth, scientifically, they say, has been alive. It would take, how old is it? I think it's like a couple billion? Like 25
They calculate
billion?
the Earth. No, it's 13.5 billion.
13.5 billion?
Yeah, but only life has been on Earth for 4.5 billion.
For life to exist, you have to have proteins. They're the amino acids and proteins, building blocks of life. For that to even get one protein, it will take hundreds of trillions of years to get a single protein. And then you need a bunch more, and then you need more of whatever the proteins make to make DNA, and you need DNA to make more things. And then that thing has to survive.
And think about that, though, too. Plants have a simpler DNA sequence. A simpler DNA sequence than humans do. Like, it's still very complex, but it is nowhere near as long as humans.
Yeah.
Right?
We got
It's
pretty girth.
Yeah, it's really
Pretty big
long.
DNA sequence. It's with all of the complexities of life, it's very strange to me how people think there is no creator. Like every painting, we know it was drawn by an artist. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie made by cast and producer.
Every
and
building.
director. Every building has a builder.
Yep.
So it's weird for us to think that something as complex as life doesn't have a creator. It's just strange to me. Well, this was Close Up podcast or
Close Up with
series.
Jesus, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it, episode 5. Comment, please, subscribe, like. Before we leave, we're going to go ahead and look on Facebook and see if y'all have commented at all. No
Nope.
comments, sadness.
And then that's the YouTube chat, right?
Yeah, that's YouTube chat
Okay.
right there. Well, it'll be fine. They'll probably watch later and comment. Thank y'all for viewing with us. Have a blessed night. We'll see y'all tomorrow on Wednesday.
Leave a comment and bye.